This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. So in the quest for information, in the course of their investigation, the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection, the attempted overthrow of the United States government, and overturning of a free and fair American election. They are trying to find out who was involved, what their involvement was, and how this thing was orchestrated in order that we prevent it from happening again. There is a clear legislative agenda and goal and authority to do what they're doing. Mark Meadows has previously stalled cooperating, refused to cooperate, didn't show up for his hearing time. And in the wake of Steve Bannon's indictment for contempt of Congress, it looks like he's ready to play ball. Maybe. I would caution, there's a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, Mark Meadows he's cooperating. If he's saying he's cooperating, that's great. But let's wait until he actually starts cooperating before we heap a bunch of praise on him. Now, there's two aspects here I want to talk about. One is he has turned over documents. That is promising. But also, I want to talk about and think about and ask the question, why would he start cooperating now? I just did a video prior to this about a possible rift that's developing between he and Donald Trump because he wrote a book that outlined a timeline of Donald Trump knowing he had COVID and being face-to-face, maskless with military members and Gold Star families, going to rallies, sharing a debate stage with Joe Biden, all of these things, knowing he had COVID and unmasked. And Donald Trump called it fake news in one of his glorious statements from the 45th President of the United States. So maybe there's a division there between these two. We don't know. But I'm going to read from this New York Times article. Meadows agrees to cooperate in Capitol attack investigation. President Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, has turned over documents and agreed to be deposed in the House inquiry into the January 6th attack. Mark Meadows, the former White House chief of staff under President Donald J. Trump, has reached an agreement with the House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol to provide documents and sit for a deposition, the panel said on Tuesday, a notable reversal from a crucial witness in the inquiry. The change of stance for Mr. Meadows, who had previously refused to cooperate with the committee in line with the directive from Mr. Trump, came as the panel prepared to seek criminal contempt of Congress charges against a second witness who had defied one of its subpoenas. It marked a turnabout after weeks of private wrangling between the former chief of staff and the House committee over whether he would participate in the investigation and to what degree. Mr. Meadows, a former Republican congressman from North Carolina, is the highest-ranking White House official to cooperate in any way with the inquiry. Quote, Mr. Meadows, now this is from Benny Thompson. So I'm going to give Benny Thompson the benefit of the doubt. I think they've been a little slow on their votes to hold people in contempt of Congress who are not cooperating, but Benny Thompson is a stand-up guy. He is a man of integrity, and he's a smart guy who's handling this thing, on the whole, very well, very professionally. These depositions, these hearings are being done in private. They're not turning this thing into a circus like Republicans have in the past, and certainly would be if they were in charge. Mr. Meadows has been engaging with the Select Committee through his attorney. Representative Benny Thompson, Democrat of Mississippi and chairman of the panel, said in a statement, he has produced records to the committee and will soon appear for an initial deposition. Mr. Thompson indicated that he was withholding judgment about whether Mr. Meadows was willing to cooperate sufficiently, adding, the committee will continue to assess his degree of compliance with our subpoena after the deposition. Mr. Meadows' lawyer, George J. Terwilliger. Look, I know a guy doesn't have, I got a dumb name myself. I know a guy doesn't have control over what his name is, but that's like a cartoon name, isn't it? George J. Terwilliger? Oh, the third, George J. Terwilliger III, suggested there were strict limits. I'm a child sometimes. I can't help it. Suggested that there were strict limits to his client's willingness to participate in the inquiry. The deposition is expected to be private, as has been the panel's practice with other witnesses. Mr. Meadows' testimony is seen as key to the committee's investigation because he was deeply involved in Mr. Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election and could provide crucial insight into what the president was doing and saying as the attack unfolded on January 6th. Mr. Meadows is believed to have spent considerable time by Mr. Trump's side at the White House as throngs of the president's supporters stormed the Capitol. Mr. Meadows is said to have tried to enlist Ivanka Trump, Mr. Trump's daughter, who he'd love to date. That was my little editorial addition. To reason with her father during the rampage. In the weeks before the attack, Mr. Meadows repeatedly pushed the Justice Department to investigate unfounded conspiracy theories. According to emails provided to Congress, portions of which were reviewed by the New York Times. He contacted several state officials to encourage investigations into election fraud claims, even after such allegations were dismissed by the courts, by dozens and dozens and dozens of courts. And he attended a meeting in late December with far right-wing Republican members of Congress who led the effort to challenge the electoral count on January 6th. Mr. Meadows was also in communication with organizers of the rally near the White House that preceded the violence, the committee has said. Among the panel's questions for him are whether he was using a private cell phone to communicate on January 6th and the location of his text messages from that day. I have previously talked about the reporting that these knuckleheads were using, these criminals, these alleged criminals, were using burner phones, that they were instructed to use burner phones so that their transmissions of any communications, whether it be text or just standard telephonic voice transmissions, would be private and secret. Couldn't be traced. And that includes to whom calls were made, from whom calls were received. Even that gives us insight into what was going on. When you got a burner phone, you don't know. Anyway, hold out any judgment, either way, on whether he's actually going to cooperate, because there is a concerted effort underway to slow the pace of this committee so that it drags into the 2022 midterms. And if the Republicans take over, which it's not looking good for Democrats right now, it's just not. There's a myriad number of reasons that it is not looking good. That's for another video. But if the Republicans are to take over, this committee's going away. We won't learn what went down. And they're trying to get us there to slow this thing to a crawl. I would love your opinion. What do you think? You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. Thank you for joining me today. Follow me on social media. I would absolutely love to connect with you there. I'm at Dollemore all the way across the board. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at Dollemore. And if I bring you value, more value than someone else, because if someone else out there does more for you, please support that person. But if I'm your flavor, please consider supporting my work. For as little as $1.99 a month, you can become a channel member by clicking the join button below, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. All those great ways to support my work, help produce what I do here. I will see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.